Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. Have the Germans gone crazy? Are they completely mad? Or are they doing the most reasonable thing? It's not that long time ago that in Germany hundreds and even thousands of people went on the street calling, "Nuclear, no thank you." The most recent demonstration was in the year 2011 in the wake of the nuclear disaster of Fukushima. During that time, the German government once again decided to phase out nuclear power. This is what most people think of when they hear the term energy transition, or what we call in Germany Energiewende. But actually, the concept of the energy transition is much older. We have been through several energy transitions in the history of the Western world. Up until the 19th century, houses and streets in Germany were lit with wax or gas. We all know that a candle can give a nice touch to a romantic dinner, but for reading and working, we all prefer electric lighting. And there are also gas lamps scattered around. In Berlin, for example, there are some nostalgics fighting fiercely to preserve this cultural heritage at all costs. But as far as lighting is concerned, nobody seriously would like to go back to the 18th century of the so-called Dark Ages. Well, also with heating, we have been through several energy transitions. It's not usual anymore these days to warm yourself around a campfire, probably only during a camping holiday, a Wild West themed birthday party, but also to warm yourself or to warm the apartment with coal, which was the main method up until the 19th century, is not suitable anymore. Some nostalgics like to have a coal stove in their apartment, but for the modern day-to-day life, this method of heating is not suitable anymore because of reason of cost, of climate change, but also simple practicalities, as you have to carry the coal buckets, empty the ash pans, and do the whole dirty work. Well, and also during to the rapid industrialization, also with growing cities during the Gründerzeit, more and more district heating systems have been built. And with this, millions of coal stoves have been removed out of the apartments. And this meant that this usual jobs, like the coal bearer, which you see here, was not necessary anymore. It was being brought into a niche existence. Think of this energy transition next time you are sitting in a heated living room together with your children, making comical Play-Doh figures. Play-Doh was originally a cleaning agent to remove ugly soot from the wallpaper, because burning coal in the apartments left an ugly soot which had to be removed. And with the remove of coal stoves out of the apartments, this cleaning agent was not necessary anymore. Well, for some companies, this would have been the end, but Future Products, for example, they discovered the educational value of this material. And up until now, they earn their money with school supply. There have been several energy transitions, also in the 19th century. And Honeywell, for example, they changed their business models. They started with so-called damper flatter for furnaces. They changed their business models and are now into the business of building automation. They're producing switches, plugs, or also systems for air conditioning. With mobility too, we have been through several energy transitions. It's not unusual these days to measure the power of a car engine in HP, horsepower. Well, we all know that a carriage drawn by 140 horses will speed up in several hours from Bonn to Berlin. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult to find a parking space for 140 horses in the middle of Berlin. So first, the steam engine replaced the horse, and then the combustion engine dominated. And the battle about mobility at the beginning of the 20th century was all about horsepower or petrol combustion. But somebody had to discover the oil first. There were some oil lamps around at the very beginning, but they burned actually whale blubber. That was a huge market during that time, because also for cities like Hamburg, a huge labor market during that time. And in a good year, there will be 900 ships out, killing up until 10,000 whales. It was not before 1930s that the people were concerned about endangered species and they started to restrict whaling. Well, you could imagine what the whalers had to say about it. Then during the 19th century, a lot of US chemists discovered the huge potential crude oil has, but it seemed impossible to get oil out of the ground. So the initial oil investors were so unsuccessful that they actually became a laughingstock as far as the public opinion was concerned. And the investors all bailed out. But then, 1859, the unimaginable happened. After a normal drilling operation, oil gushed out of the Pennsylvania ground, and in sufficient quantities too. So the oil industry was booming. It's now 150 years old, and it has passed its zenith. Although some professionalists do not like to hear this, as well as the oil light builder, the coal bearer, or the whalers of the bygone years. The most fundamental energy transition came with the invention of electric power, the invention of the light bulb, and also the electrification of cities. And also this very early beginning of the electrical period was accompanied by a huge quarrel between two electrical pioneers. That was George Westinghouse and Thomas Edison. And there was a huge war of currents about direct or alternating currents, and the public was only changing their opinions after an execution by an electric chair. So the winner at the end was George Westinghouse, and it's normal now to use alternating currents, but we are still celebrating Thomas Edison as the inventor of the light bulb. The next fundamental energy transition came in the 1960s and 70s, where the people were hoping to have some peaceful use of nuclear power. That was the wake of the oil crisis of the 1970s, and the people thought they had the choice between oil and nuclear power. It seemed that during the Cold War there are only two fronts, and these two fronts is a choice between oil and nuclear power. But there have been always a third front. There have always been scientists, company leaders, engineers backing the energy coming from renewables, like wind, hydro, and solar power. But you could imagine the people thought they are mad. And it's exactly these crazy men and women the Germans want to engage with. Germany sees itself as a land of engineers with a lot of groundbreaking inventions in the history of their country. And this energy transition is now backed by the country, by the majority of population, and it has been implemented by policymakers. And it's in full swing, or is it? Well, there are a lot of naysayers and skeptics who do their utmost to block the development of renewable energy. Instead of moving forward, we are engaged in heavy debates about costs and implementation. As a consequence, we see a turnaround of the transition is implemented, and a turnaround of the discussion is implemented. So at the end, you really get dizzy by watching all the debates and all the implementations of the policymakers going around in circles. But the following fact speaks for themselves. First of all, the population is rising. With rising population, also the energy demand will rise too. And especially because of fast-growing countries like China and India. And in fact, our resources are not rising. In fact, they are shrinking. The more we consume, the faster they shrink. So it's be better to have a climate-friendly and equal energy supply worldwide. The second thing is that burning fossil fuels causes climate change. Climate change means that whole regions become unlivable. And we already see environmental migrants right now. Nobody seriously would like to see an increase in their number. The third thing is nuclear power. Because both Fukushima and Chernobyl has shown how dangerous this technology is. And the problem of nuclear waste is not solved. It's extremely costly. And there are only few supporters worldwide who are really willing to accept this huge financial, economic, social, and health risks. The fourth thing is renewable energy is infinite. Wow. a cake that never gets smaller, independently how much we eat away from it. Fifth is renewable energy is becoming more cheap. Because of innovation, of technological progress, we see that renewable energy is becoming more and more competitive. And six is that renewable energy is not causing emissions, in contrast to fossil fuels. And seven is renewable energy is more democratic and efficient because we go away from centrally planned structures like nuclear or coal-fired power plants and go towards more decentralized, efficient, and also democratic structures. So is it crazy to draw the conclusions from all these facts? Are the advocates of the German Energiewende really crazy? Well, some people say yes. They say that there's no human-induced climate change. They know of enormous amounts of oil reserves. They think fracking is cool and nuclear is safe. Renewable energy, they think, is just a dream of some crazy hippies. Sorry, boys. The share of renewable energy has already been increased by over 30% of the electricity production right now. And it will be 80% by 2050. That is the aim the German Energiewende has. But it might be 2055 or 2038. We don't care when exactly the rail tracks have been laid down through the country. We don't care when exactly the first time Berta Benz drove with her car from Mannheim to Karlsruhe. And we don't care when exactly the first computer computed. What we do is we just take our smartphone, book our trip, and go wherever we want. What we do care about is what price we have to pay for this. And we means you and you and you and all the other 7 billion people on Earth. We certainly don't want to have energy as a luxury good for only a small amount of people. We don't want to have energy wars and certainly no environmental migrants. So to put it simple, it all boils down to the fact that we have to assure a climate-friendly and equal energy supply worldwide. The good thing about the energy transition is it offers huge market opportunities. And as you can see, market opportunities have always been underestimated in the past. Because you don't see immediately the market, you don't see the innovation potential, you are not convinced that there might be a huge market. But as you can learn from the past, the market has been always different than the leading market experts were thinking. There are huge market opportunities of the Energiewende, and we already see this right now. The costs are declining, we see new jobs, and a lot of economics going on in the world. So what do we have to do then? Well, we have to do to start doing something, because doing nothing is worth. We have to ignore the skeptics. No more turnarounds. We need to move forward and stop doing the old things, do the new things right. And here comes the last fact. In the history of humankind, when people needed energy, they were always been able to find smart solutions. This energy transition will certainly not be the last one. It will be the first one who brings together social, economic, and ecological needs. Thank you very much.